The Death of Superman Lives. What Happened? Officially released in 2015 and is directed by your resident sweaty John Schnepp. And this is Caleb Watches Movies, and I am currently in the middle of my series, my Journey to Episode 100 and Beyond series. And today I was supposed to be talking about my favorite documentary. But today at work I was checking my Twitter feed and I saw the terrible news that John Schnepp, the regular on Collider Heroes and Collider Movie Talk, that's where I know him from, unfortunately passed away. He had been in intensive care for many, many days. He suffered a terrible stroke, and they just pulled him off life support, and he died yesterday, which would have been July 19th, 2018. I've never met John Schnepp. I do not know him personally, but he is one of the reasons why I've kind of developed this YouTube channel, and further developed my love of film. Back when I was just discovering podcasts, I guess this would be back in 2014, I was discovering shows like AMC Movie Talk and the Schmoes No Show, and John Schnepp would be a regular on those shows, and this is where I really got my further love of how films are made and the filmmaking business. And as I kept listening to those shows, John Schnepp would keep talking about how he has this documentary coming out called The Death of Superman Lives. What Happened? So today, in honor of his memory and in honor of his death, and really to kind of help me cope with the great loss of such a great, lovable person that has affected millions and millions of lives, I've decided to do a movie review on his documentary. And I think this is going to help me cope with this because I have shed some tears today over this news. And even though it was someone that I've never met and I don't know personally, he's still affected me in some way. And it has affected many other people too. Now, I do want to put this out there right now. I am not doing this for financial gain. I don't receive any funds for putting out a video on YouTube. I don't have monetization yet. If I ever do become monetized on this channel, I promise you, I guarantee you, I will be donating all of my funds to the memory of John Schnepp and to his wife who survived him. They do have a donation page out there, so any one of my followers, if you can give anything, because medical expenses for his care, I mean, that can just go crazy. I know from experience. So anything that you can give, I'll be giving as well too. Anything that you could possibly give to help out Holly and her family with this devastating time be greatly appreciated by me as a fan, and I'm sure by her as his wife. So Superman Lives! That was actually going to be a movie. And just a couple of weeks before the start of principal photography, they cut the plug. This would have been around the 2008 time period, which is not the best time period when it comes to comic book movies. Just the previous year, we got amazing films like Batman and Robin and Steel. It was not a good time. But this was going to be almost a decade since the last time we saw Superman on screen. And for any of those sweaties out there who do know the last time we saw Superman on screen, that was in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which is the best film to use for a drinking game. If anything stupid happens on screen, take a shot. You'll be plastered. Actually, you'll probably go to the emergency room, so please don't do that. Superman 4, you remember the one with Nuclear Man who had the long radioactive fingernails? Oh god, that was not good at all. But Warner Brothers still wanted to capitalize on the profitability of the character Superman. And then in 1992, the popularity for Superman kind of increased, ironically, with the release of his comic book called The Death of Superman, where Superman fought Doomsday basically to the death, which ironically kind of rejuvenated the character. I don't know, it's a long comic book history. But Warner Brothers wanted to do something with that, so they came up with this title called Superman Lives. And they got quite a visionary director to direct it. Tim Burton, the man behind bringing The Dark Knight to the screen with Batman 1989. And then on top of that, you get an actor who is very hot at the time, and it's really known for going over the top with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is gonna be Superman. Yeah, that guy. But in the documentary, John Schnepp has an interview with Tim Burton, and Tim Burton explains his reasoning why he chose a person like Nick Cage to be Superman. When you think Superman, you basically think like, you know, square jaw, big, broad chest, and a very strong-looking fellow, even when he has the glasses on. But Tim Burton's logic behind it is like, no, if Superman was really trying to be, you know, kind of secluded and be into hiding, he would try to make himself appear kind of as the weakest and most secluded type of human there is. Basically, he looked like a dork. And when you say that, you're like, okay, yeah, that's actually a very interesting take. Not faithful to the comics at all, but definitely an interesting take. So there were all these really cool ideas out there. So what the heck happened to this film? And that's the same question that John Schnepp asked himself many, many years ago, where he would just start typing in, "This Superman lives," and just finding this picture here on Google or this picture over here, which would in turn lead him down a rabbit hole of like all these unseen photos. And no one was talking about this. So, of course, John Schnepp gets in there and gets all these interviews over the course of several years. And you gotta hand it to John for getting all of this together, because this is a movie that Warner Brothers just wanted to sweep under the rug and never wanted to talk about again. And I think I recall him saying that he's tried multiple times with talking with different people about this film, and no one wanted to talk about it up until the final time. And this documentary as a whole is very well organized, very well placed together, and I do know that it was very last minute where he finally got that interview with the director, Tim Burton, which I think is the thing that really solidified this documentary. If he did not get that interview with Tim Burton, I don't think this film would have been such a success that it was. And for my knowledge, it came really late in the game. And it only came late in the game because when he had his little pre-interview with Tim Burton, he seemed very genuine and very sympathetic with Tim Burton. It was just a great conversation. So Tim Burton was like, yeah, okay, well, let's do the interview. Only just goes to show you how great of a person and how lovable John Schnepp was. Because this film is a sore spot when it comes to Tim Burton. He does not like talking about it at all. And just going from interview to interview during this documentary, you just go, how the heck are these people running this studio? Or how the heck were they in charge of this? Because some of the producers seem unprofessional and have absolutely no concept of who Superman as a character is. There's actually one point during the documentary where the producer got a call from one of his agents or friend or whatever, and John Schnepp is basically just sitting there. Cameras are rolling. The dude is mic'd up, and he's just taking a call, and John Schnepp is just there going, okay. I don't know if I would have been as professional as he was in that moment, because if someone does that to me just in everyday life, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck? But this movie went through so much hell. No wonder why it got canceled. Because I don't think anyone knew what they were about to shoot. There were 3 different scripts. And listening to all these interviews leading up to what was going to be the start of principal photography, I don't think anyone knew what was happening or what the story was about. There were a lot of different design concepts, sets were being built, costumes were being built, and a lot of cool designs too. Definitely not the Superman that I know, but I'm definitely open to interpretation, and this interpretation of the Superman suit, like the cryogenic chamber, the rebirth suit, I think look really, really cool. But some of the other rules that the producers gave the writers, like at one point they said he has to fight a giant spider and no, he can't fly at all. What? If this film did come out and Superman didn't end up flying at all in the film, I would not have counted it as a Superman film. That's the thing I love the most about Superman. If I had a genie and I had 3 wishes, number 1, I would get the powers of Superman because I wanted to fly like him. And if you're gonna have a Superman movie where he's not flying, I'm not interested. They were going to do Brainiac though, and that's a Superman villain that needs to have an adaptation. And his was gonna be so cool. It was gonna be the skull, it was gonna have all these spider legs. That would have been a cool concept. But studio got cold feet. They wanted to go in a different direction at the last minute. So all this prep, all of this hope of what this film was going to be, just up out of the air. But the design concepts, the story of how this film was being made, John Schnepp just fell in love with it. And you can tell the love that he has in this film. He poured his heart and soul into this thing, and my God, it shows. Guys, in the end, The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened is a definite recommend on my part. If you are a fan of comic books, if you are a fan of superheroes, if you're a fan or if you're very curious about the movie-making experience, this is a definite watch for you. Because you can see the different layers of how a film gets made, from the producers to their conversations with the director and their relationships with the writers who are writing the whole thing. It's just a fascinating watch to begin with, and then on top of the passing of John Schnepp, the director of this documentary, I think it's an absolute necessary watch. So I'm going to give The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened 4.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I think I see blue. He looks glorious.
It's a very interesting documentary, and just with the news of his passing today, this has just been kind of nice to talk about. And then just hearing the stories from people on Twitter and people from Collider about how he was in critical care for a long time and his wife was taking care of him, of course trying to be as private as possible, not releasing too much information, which is totally understandable. And then finding out the terrible news today of how he passed away. This was due to a stroke that he suffered many weeks ago. it's just a hard thing to deal with. You know, this is interesting. I don't know the man personally, but just hearing all the love and support that this guy is getting, and knowing that his wife is now left alone because he is gone and it came out of nowhere. It's a hard thing to listen to, because it kind of makes you do an introspective of yourself and of your life. And if this would, if this happened to me, and the hardship that would cause on my wife, it's a hard thing for me to think about. And really, if that was going to be changed, if it happened to her, and me dealing with me sitting by her side while this happened, I can only imagine what Holly is going through right now, and what she has been through the past week. So if she is watching this, please know that my heart is with you, and my well wishes go out to you. And to any of you out there who have gone through something like this, where you've sat by someone's side at their hospital bed while they're in critical condition, and you've kind of just had to watch them deteriorate over a long period of time, my heart goes out to you. I personally have no idea what you're feeling. I can only know the pain and loss that I've felt with my life, and people that have gone that I've known and loved. So I'm so sorry. The big lesson that I think that we can take away from this is to just hug and love the people that you love every single day, because you never know when it's gonna go. You never know when it's going to be the last time that you're going to see them and you'll be able to talk to them. I think death is something that we all fear at a point in our lives. It's definitely something that I've been thinking about recently, just getting older, and just knowing, because I've decided not to have kids with my wife. We both made that decision together. And so it's really like thinking about your life. It ends after a certain time. You're on this earth for, hopefully 100 years. That's hoping. And then all of a sudden you're gone, and no one, your time is just done. But me doing this channel here, I know that, my voice, my legacy, my philosophy is kind of saved and archived somewhere out there in cyberspace, and people can look and see and maybe pass on some of that philosophy to their kids, and pass on to their friends and their family members. That's why I do this, and I think that's the biggest takeaway from this horrible day, this horrible news that we've received today. Just tell the people that you love every single day that you love them. So everyone, have you seen The Death of Superman Lives? What Happened? What did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before, you stumbled across it because of this video, please comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And again, one last time, if you have anything to spare, please donate to John Schnepp's GoFundMe page. There's medical bills, it's a bitch. And I'm sure Holly and their family needs all the support that we can possibly give them. So everyone, I will see you next time on my Journey to Episode 100 and Beyond series. I believe next time we're talking about a film that I used to hate, but now I love. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I'm actually going to give it another chance, because I saw it many years ago and I hated it. I haven't seen it since then, so I'm hoping with my adult eyes, maybe I'll find some appreciation for it. Probably not, though. So guys, I will see you next time. In the meantime, be well. Be good to each other, please, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.